Hello everyone and namaskar to one and all. Today we have to start, that is one of the interesting unit, vital unit. This is unit 4. This unit belongs to plant physiology and this includes 5 chapters. Today we will start chapter 11, that is transport in plants, and part first of this chapter 11, that is we have to discuss in this means of transport, then short distance transport, and then we have to see what we mean by water potential and significance of water potential. This is chapter 11, unit 4, plant, that is transport in plants, and this is part 1, chapter 11. Plant physiology, unit 4, it consists 5 chapters. We have to start chapter 11, transport in plants. For this unit, an important, that is eminent scientist, eminent worker, he is 𝕆𝕋𝔼𝔼. He was born in Minnesota and received PhD degree in chemistry from University of Minnesota, and he served in University of California and Berkeley. You see, when there was World War II and everyone was discussing about Hiroshima-Nagasaki bombing and seeing ill effects of radioactivity, he along with his team, that is, he studied reaction in green plants forming sugar and other substances by using raw material like carbon dioxide, water and minerals by using radioactive carbon dioxide labeled with C14. He proposed, that is, plant change light energy to chemical energy by transferring an electron in an organized array of pigment molecules and other substances and mapping of pathway of carbon assimilation, that is in photosynthesis. He earned the name and fame and he got Nobel Prize in 1961. The principle of photosynthesis as established by Kelvin and his team at present is being used in studies in renewable sources for energy and materials and basic studies of solar energy research. You have to remember his contribution. Now we have to say transport in plants part 1. You know, that is, plant needs to move molecules over long, very long distances, much more than animals. Water taken by roots, you know that this is the plant and that this is the root. The water and minerals absorbed by the root, that is transported to, that is, tip of the stem. In the same way, the food produced by leaves, photosynthetic products by leaves, that is also to be moved to all part of the plant, including root tips. In a flowering plant, the substance that would need to be transported, that is water, minerals, organic nutrients, and plant growth regulators. This transport may be small distance, that is from cell to cell. It may be by cytoplasmic streaming movement, it may be by diffusion, or it may be by active transport. That is transport over long distances, that is take place through vascular tissue system, xylem and phloem, and this is called translocation. So transport, these are of two types, that is small, that is distance transport, and the second is long distance transport. Now we have to see direction of transport. You can see it in rooted plants, transport in xylem, already you have seen there. In case of tissues, that is what is there, that is transport in xylem, that is unidirectional one, organic material, and that is all other substances produced therein, that is leaves. That transport is multi-directional transport. Sometimes it will go to the, that is apical part, meristematic tissue, and it may go to the, that is underground part, that is storage organ. You see, in case of flowering plant, that is, there is a complex traffic of compound. One will be going to this side, one is going to this side, the other are going to this periphery. But here, this complex traffic probably very orderly, moving in different directions. Now you have to see means of transport. One is short distance transport we have to discuss. That is one from cell to cell like this. So it may be of 3 types. One is by diffusion. You know diffusion means what? That is substances will diffuse from high concentration to that is low concentration, that is known as diffusion. It is passive one. It may be from one part of cell to other, from cell to cell over short distance, and from intercellular space of leaves to the outside. What is there in diffusion? It is that is molecules move in a random fashion, net result of the substance, that is from higher concentration to lower concentration. That is very important, diffusion. It is a slow process. It's not dependent on living system. Even non-living substances, molecules, ions, they used to diffuse from higher concentration to low concentration. And diffusion is obvious, that is in gaseous and liquid, but diffusion in solid is more likely. So diffusion is very important in case of plant also. You see, the gases they diffuse from their high concentration to low concentration in plant body. And diffusion, it is affected by concentration gradient. If the gradient is high, diffusion will be faster. Depends if it is through a membrane. Permeability of membrane will affect diffusion. Temperature, that is the things will diffuse from high temperature to low temperature, and similarly they'll diffuse from high pressure to low pressure. Is it right? Come to the next now. We have to see that is facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion, as it indicate, it is also diffusion, but a specialized type of diffusion. Gradient is there, all the characters of diffusion will be there, that they will diffuse from that is high concentration of substance to low concentration. This is purely a physical process. No vital energy is used in this. So this is gradient is established from high concentration to low concentration. Diffusion rate depends on the size of substance. Smaller substance they will diffuse faster, right? And diffusion of any substance across a membrane also depends upon its solubility in lipids. Very important point. You see, if this is the plasma membrane is having this bimolecular layer of lipids. Therefore, a substance which is soluble in lipids, that can diffuse easily through this membrane. But the substance which is not soluble in lipid, which is soluble in water, that cannot be permitted easily through the membrane. So here diffusion of such substances is facilitated. It is facilitated by protein molecules which are found there in this plasma membrane. These protein molecules, they will take the substance soluble in water at one end, and then they will rotate on other side and will leave the substance to other site. So here substance soluble in lipids, the same thing, diffuses easily to the membrane faster. Substance have hydrophilic moiety, find it difficult to that is move through the membrane. The membrane protein provides site which such molecules that is with hydrophilic moiety, they will be allowed to move through this protein, that is molecules. Their movement will be facilitated. They do not set up concentration gradient, means there should be from high concentration to low concentration. Already is there, and the thing is that is these membranes are present. These membranes, they have this protein, and the proteins will allow, they will facilitate diffusion. Special type of protein, they will take the substance from one side, then they will move to other side, they will be rotated, and here therefore no expenditure of ATP energy will be there, cannot use net transport of molecule from low to high concentration, because this is important. Concentration gradient is to be established. From high concentration to low concentration they have to move. Facilitated diffusion, that is very, very specific one, important. And see, protein form channel in membrane of a molecule to pass through. Some channels, these are always open, while the others are controlled, important one. The porins are present in membranes. These are the large spores in the outer membrane, also found in plastids, mitochondria, and some bacteria, and in plasma membrane. They allow molecules that is up to size of a small protein to pass through porins. Extracellular molecules that is bound to transport protein, and as I told you, transport protein that rotates and release the molecules on other side. Water channels, these are made up of 8 porins known as that is aquaporins. Now see the diagram here. This is plasma membrane. These are the that is lipid molecules, and here this is the concentration. This is the outer side of the cell. Here the concentration of the substance is high. This substance will be received by this at this end. These are the protein molecules, and these protein molecules, they will rotate and will leave this particle on other side. So here they will move from high concentration to low concentration. That is, these proteins, as I told you, these are very specific one, and that is they do not utilize energy. No ATP is being used here. This is called facilitated diffusion. Okay. Now in this we have to see facilitated diffusion, that is passive symport and that is antiport. Some carrier or transport protein, they allow diffusion only if the two types of molecules, they move together. This is symport. Both molecules cross the membrane in the same direction, which is called symport, and if they move in opposite direction, that is known as antiport. And when the membrane allows only, that is independent of other molecules, only one molecule will be passed, that is known as uniport. Uniport, only one molecule. Antiport or symport, that is two molecules will be allowed. Symports, both molecules, they have to move in one direction. Antiport, they have to move in opposite direction. Okay. Now the third is active transport. Simple thing, that here, that this is the membrane here, this is the low concentration, and here that one is high concentration. When the substance move from low concentration to high concentration against concentration gradient, then this is active transport. Here also we have some that is protein, and these proteins are known as pump. Because this is against law of nature, therefore the ATP energy will be used. Specific membrane proteins are there, and different proteins in the membrane, they play a major role, both active as well as passive. The pumps are there which will pump, that is molecules from low concentration to high concentration. We may call that this is uphill transport, that this is called uphill transport, this is called active transport, while on other side this is known as downhill transport, where the energy is not utilized. Here that is saturation effect is observed. If all these proteins are being engaged, then they will be called as saturated one. These are specific and saturated, and these are sensitive to inhibitors. If a chemical is being used, inhibitor is being used, which will change the characteristics of this specific protein, then this active transport will be affected. Okay. Now we have to compare, that is different transport processes. You see now what is this comparison we have. This is property we have: simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and active transport. Proteins in the membrane are responsible for important one, that is facilitated diffusion and active transport. Hence they show some common characteristics. For example, that is in both they are highly selective, they are specific, they show saturation effect, and they respond to inhibitors. Because in both facilitated and active transport, the proteins are involved, and these are under the control of hormonal regulation. But diffusion, it is different from rest of the two. Diffusion, that is whether this is facilitated or not, that take place along the concentration gradient from high concentration to low concentration, but they do not need energy. So we can compare in a tabulated form. Simple diffusion require specific membrane. No membrane is not required. It may or may not be there. But in facilitated and active transport, the membrane is required, because the membrane that has protein. The membrane requirement, that is, it is no, this is yes and yes. Highly selective, this is not highly selective, but this is yes and yes. Transport saturation, no transport saturation. because the proteins are involved. That's why they will get saturated. Yes and yes. Uphill transport. Here this one is, that is downhill transport, while here in this case this one is uphill transport. Here also that is uphill transport. Is it right? No. Here also that will be, that is downhill transport will be there. The energy is not being used. Here that will be the uphill transport. Therefore energy will be used. Required ATP energy? No. Here that is no. It is again, that is according to concentration gradient, while this one is against concentration gradient, that requires energy. Hormonal control? No hormonal control. This is yes and yes. Effect of inhibitors, because the proteins are not involved in diffusion, that's why not affected by inhibitors, while these rest of the two, these are affected by inhibitors. Is it right? Come to the next now. We have to see, that is plant-water relationship. We have to see now plant-water relationship. Yes, we all know that is water is essential for all physiological activities of plant, and it plays very important role in all living organism. The protoplasm, you know, protoplasm of living, it has good amount of water. It provides medium in which most of the substances are dissolved. When the substances are dissolved, that is, this substance may be ionized, and this ionized, that is responsible for, that is metabolic reactions. Water plays important role. Protoplasm of the cell is nothing but water. It has good amount of water. For example, these examples are given in NCERT. You have to pay attention. A watermelon is having 92% of water. Most of the herbaceous plant, they have only 10 to 15% dry weight. That is about 85 to, that is 90% they have water in it. Fresh weight is less, that is water is more in herbaceous plant. Distribution of water in a plant, it varies. The woody plant, they have relatively, definitely you know it, less amount of water, while the soft part, they have comparatively more amount of water. A seed may appear dry. Seed is dry, but because the seed is a living structure, that's why without water it cannot survive. It has, that is least amount of water, so that the metabolic rate, this is least 1. Otherwise it will not be able to survive without water. Respiration is required. Terrestrial plant, they take huge amount of water daily. Most of this is lost through transpiration, that is through aerial part. The process is known as, that is transpiration. Is it? Now after that you have to see water potential. Very, very important phenomena. This is water potential we have to see. See this concept, water potential, that helps us to understand this water movement. What is water potential? We have to see first. This water, two other, that is components are there associated with this. One is solute potential and one is, that is pressure potential. Water potential is denoted by this, that is psi W. Solute potential is denoted by psi S, and pressure potential is denoted by, that is psi P. Yes, we were discussing about water potential. We see, children, that water potential, if this is in any system, we have pure solvent, that this pure solvent is water. So the kinetic energy of water molecules, that is denoted as water potential, and that is denoted by, that is psi W, and this is the highest one, that is maximum one of pure solvent, maximum of pure solvent, this one is. So pure water is having, that is maximum water potential, and this water potential maximum is taken as, that is 0. Remember this thing. If some solute is being added to this, then this water potential of this solvent, that will decrease, and as much as of solute is being added, accordingly, that is amount of, or that is there will be decrease in water potential. Remember this thing. The water molecules possess kinetic energy. that is in liquid and gaseous forms, that is this is random motion because both are rapid and constant. Free energy of the water molecules, that is known as water potential. The greater the concentration of water in a system, greater is the kinetic energy and water potential. You can see what you mean by this. If we are having that is 2, that is this is pure water, and let this is 1 we have, let this is the solution 1. So here water potential of this will be that is 0, and water potential of that will be that is less than 0, that will be less than 0. The water potential, let this is -3 here. So as and when solute is being added, water potential will decrease. That pure water is having highest water potential, greatest water potential. The two systems containing water in contact, I told you, that is that molecules will move from that is high water potential to low water potential. Which is having high water potential? If the pure water and the solution, these are kept in contact, then the molecules will move from that is high water potential to low water potential. If this is solution A, this one is B, they will move from A to that is B, right? This, so here that is they will move from high water potential to the low water potential, and the process of movement of substance down a gradient of free energy, that is called diffusion. You know diffusion also, from that is high concentration to low concentration substance used to move, but here this is in term of energy. I told you that is denoted by letter psi and expressed as unit, that is Pascal. The convention water molecules of pure water at standard temperature, which is not under any pressure, is taken as 0. Very important point. If some solute is added to the pure water, what happens? The kinetic energy of the system will decrease and water potential will decrease. Hence all solution, they have lower water potential than pure water, and the magnitude of lowering this resolution is called that is solid potential, denoted by that is psi s. Is it? Always remember that is psi s is always -1. Is it? For a solution at atmospheric pressure, important statement, that is this solid potential is equal to water potential, right? Pressure greater than atmospheric pressure, then pure water potential will increase. Pressure can build up in a plant system, and that pressure, because of entry of water, that is known as water pressure potential, and the cell will be known as 𝕍𝕀𝔻𝔼𝕆. Pressure potential is always +1, denoted by letter psi. Water potential of a cell is affected by both, and we know one equation, that is this equation is very popular one. Water potential is equal to solute potential plus pressure potential. Water potential is always negative of a solution. This is also negative, and pressure potential is always +1. This is part 1 of this chapter. Thank you.